You click one button, just one. It says, "Buy now," and then you close your laptop and go about your day, barely giving it a second thought. But in that instant, you set off a chain reaction involving warehouses the size of small cities, robots, algorithms making split-second decisions, and a truck driver who, at this very moment, doesn't even know your street exists yet. By the time that package lands on your porch 2 days later, it may have traveled hundreds or even thousands of miles, passed through the hands of several different systems, and been scanned more times than you'd believe. So what actually happens in between? Let's follow it. The moment you click Buy, you're not really talking to a person. You're talking to a computer system, and that system's very first job is to check something you'd never think about. Is the item actually there? Online retailers exaggerate a lot of things, but inventory usually isn't one of them, because the entire system depends on knowing, in real time, exactly how many units of exactly which product sit on exactly which shelf. If that number is wrong, the whole chain breaks down later. So the moment you check out, the system reserves your item, charges your card, or at least authorizes the charge, and quietly sends a signal to a warehouse that might be hundreds of miles from your home. That warehouse is called a fulfillment center, and it's probably nothing like what you picture when you hear the word warehouse. Some of these buildings are over 1 million square feet. To put that in perspective, that's larger than 20 football fields end to end. Walking every aisle would take hours. Which raises an obvious problem. How does anyone find your one item in a sea of possibly hundreds of thousands of products fast enough to ship it out today? The answer is that humans mostly don't find it, or rather, they don't wander to find it. In many modern fulfillment centers, the shelves come to the person. Mobile robots, about the size of a large ottoman, slide underneath entire shelving units, lift them slightly off the ground, and carry the whole shelf to a worker standing at a station. The worker never walks the warehouse floor at all. They just stand there, and shelf after shelf glides up to them like a strange, robotic buffet line. This single change in design is part of why online orders became so fast. Instead of a person spending most of their shift walking, the walking gets outsourced to machines that never get tired and never take a wrong turn. Not every warehouse uses robots like this. Plenty still rely on human pickers walking routes optimized by software, wearing scanners that tell them exactly which aisle, shelf, and bin to go to next in the most efficient order possible. Either way, the goal is the same. Get your item off a shelf and into a bin as quickly and accurately as possible. Once your item is picked, it heads to packing. And here's something that might surprise you. The system is often deciding, in real time, what size box or envelope to use based on the exact dimensions and weight of your order. Get it wrong, and you either waste box space, which costs money at scale, or you damage the product, which costs even more. Multiply that decision by millions of packages a day, and you start to understand why so much software exists purely to answer the question, what's the most efficient container for this exact item? Your package gets a shipping label, which is really just a barcode translation of an address. And this is where the invisible layer of the journey begins. Every barcode scan from here forward isn't just tracking for your benefit, it's how the entire logistics network knows where every single package is, at every moment, out of the millions moving simultaneously across the country. From the fulfillment center, your package usually travels to a sorting facility. This is where things get almost hypnotic to watch. Picture a river of packages moving along conveyor belts that stretch the length of several city blocks, merging, splitting, and merging again like highway traffic. Cameras and scanners read the barcode on each package as it flies past, sometimes at several feet per second. And in that instant, the system decides where it goes next. Should it go toward a delivery truck heading to your city? Or does it need to go to an airport to get flown partway across the country first? That decision depends heavily on distance and how fast you asked your item to arrive. If you're only a couple hundred miles from the fulfillment center, your package might travel entirely by truck. But if you're across the country and paid for faster shipping, there's a good chance it gets loaded onto a cargo plane. Most major delivery companies operate their own fleets of cargo aircraft, and many of them funnel through a central hub, often overnight when passenger air traffic is lightest. Picture an airport most people never see. No passengers, no gates, just miles of conveyor belts and a small mountain range of packages getting sorted between midnight and 4 in the morning, so they can be back on trucks by sunrise. Once your package reaches the city near you, it heads to a local distribution center, sometimes called the last mile facility. This is genuinely one of the most quietly impressive parts of the whole system, because this is where a giant, impersonal logistics network turns into something remarkably specific: your exact address. Here, software calculates delivery routes not just based on distance, but based on traffic patterns, one-way streets, apartment complex layouts, and even which side of the street to drive on to minimize left turns, since sitting and waiting to turn across traffic wastes time and fuel across millions of stops a day. Your package gets loaded onto a truck in a very particular order, not randomly, but essentially reverse organized, so that the last package loaded is the first one the driver delivers, and so on throughout the day. And this is the part of the journey you actually witness: the truck, the driver, the knock or the doorbell, or the package just quietly appearing like it teleported there. But here's a detail most people never think about. That driver often has somewhere between 1 and 200 stops to make in a single day, sometimes more depending on the region and company. Every single stop requires finding parking, walking to a door, scanning the package, sometimes taking a photo as delivery proof, and moving to the next address, all while a routing app is quietly recalculating in the background if something changes, like a road closure or a last-minute add-on package. So what happens when something goes wrong? Packages do get lost, though less often than people assume, given the sheer volume moving daily. Sometimes a barcode gets damaged or unreadable, and the package has to be manually identified by a worker, which slows it down but usually doesn't lose it entirely. Sometimes weather shuts down flights, backing up entire sorting hubs for a day or two. And sometimes, despite every scan and system, a package genuinely just goes missing, misrouted onto the wrong truck or shelf. Which is why delivery companies build return and investigation systems specifically for these cases. There's also a common misconception worth clearing up. Many people assume one company handles a package from start to finish. In reality, the seller, the fulfillment warehouse, the shipping carrier, and the final delivery driver might belong to entirely different companies working together through shared software and standardized barcodes. It's less like one company doing a task and more like a relay race with incredibly well-practiced handoffs. So why is the whole system built this way, with robots and central hubs and reverse-loaded trucks? Because at the scale of millions of packages moving every single day, tiny inefficiencies multiply into massive costs. A 10-second delay per package might sound irrelevant, until you multiply it across an entire warehouse's daily volume, and suddenly it's the difference between promising 2-day shipping or 5-day shipping. Which is really the heart of the answer. That impossibly fast delivery you've come to expect isn't magic, and it isn't one single genius system either. It's dozens of smaller systems, robots, algorithms, airplanes, trucks, and people, all handing your package to each other in a carefully choreographed sequence, most of it happening while you're asleep or simply going about your day. So the next time a package shows up on your doorstep 2 days after you clicked buy, you'll know it didn't just appear. It crossed sorting floors the size of stadiums, flew through the night on a cargo plane, got loaded onto a truck in a very specific order, and finally ended its journey with a knock on your door. And that makes sense. If you enjoyed pulling back the curtain on something you use every week, subscribe to That Makes Sense, because there's a hidden system behind almost everything around you, and we're just getting started uncovering